This lesson is on factoring sum and difference of cubes. Okay, in order to factor sum and difference of cubes, they have to have a certain look. You have to have two terms. Your coefficients and your constants must be perfect cubes. And remember, that just means a number times itself 3 times. And the exponents must be divisible by 3. And so you can have a 3, a 6, a 9, whatever. Okay, when you factor a difference of cubes, or sum of cubes, you're going to end up with a binomial times a trinomial. Now, when we're doing this, it's important for us to figure out whether the parentheses are going to have plus signs or minus signs. There are two possibilities for what the way the signs will look. You'll either have the first one have a positive, the second one have a negative and a positive, or the first one have a negative and the other two have both positives. The last sign in the second parentheses will always be a positive sign. The only signs that's going to change are the first two signs. They're going to alternate based on the problem. Now, there's an acronym that we can use to help us set up the problems, especially the signs. It's called SOAP. This tells me the same sign as the original goes in the first parenthesis. If there's a plus sign in the original, you put a plus sign. The second parenthesis will be the opposite of the original. The AP stands for always a plus sign at the end. So if your if the original problem is positive, you use A. If your original problem is negative, you use B. Right here. Now, this sounds kind of complicated, but it's really not too bad. Here's the steps. Here's what I do. Once I get the signs set up, I will rewrite. Now, let me just say this. Here's how they look. It's a cubed plus b cubed, where a and b are variables or numbered, or a cubed minus b cubed. So that's the form they take. Let me fix that. Okay, so this is the a and the b, what I'm talking about. So the first term we call a. I'll split that into 3 pieces, all the same. The b cubed I will split into 3 pieces. And since it's cubed, they have to be the same. Now, I put one of the a's and one of the b's in the first parentheses. I put the other 2 a's at the beginning of the second parentheses. I put the other 2 b's at the end of the parentheses, and then we're going to multiply the a and the b to get what's in the middle. So here's an example. Here's what it looks like. I split it apart as a times a times a, b times b times b. So I'm going to put one of the a's and one of the b's in the first parentheses. I put the remaining a's in the second parentheses. I put the remaining b's in the second parentheses, highlighted in pink. Now, to get what's in the middle, we multiply the a and the b. Once I start putting numbers in here, I think it'll make a little more sense. Same thing for the minus sign in the middle. It's going to look exactly the same, except the signs are different. Now, you can read over this again, but it's probably not going to make much sense with the a and the b. So let's just go work some problems. We're going to start with, x cubed minus 8. Whoops. Oh no, something just happened. Wow. Whoa, something's still happening. Let's see. There we go. Okay. So what you're going to do first is you're going to set up your signs. Now, I'm going to use SOAP, and I'm going to put the acronym underneath the parentheses. The first sign, the original sign is negative. So in the first parentheses, we'll put a negative. The second parentheses will be the opposite and always a plus sign. Now, this is what I was talking about when I split the pieces apart. X cubed is 3x's. Now 8 is a perfect cube. It's made up of 2's, so it's 2 times 2 times 2. Now, what I do, I circle the first piece and I circle the second piece and I put those in the first parentheses. The remaining x's I multiply and put at the beginning of the second parentheses. The remaining 2's I multiply and put at the end of the second parentheses. And to get what goes in the middle, I multiply the pieces I've got circled. Multiply the circled pieces, and that will go in the middle. So it'll be 2 times x is 2x. One of the x's, one of the 2's goes in the first. The remaining x's, multiply them together. The remaining 2's, multiply them together. And to get what's in the middle, you multiply the circled pieces. Alright, let's do x cubed plus 27. Now, it's important to make sure that these numbers are cubes. If you have to, list them out. Okay, so I'll set up my signs. S, O, A, P. Now, since the original sign is positive, the first parentheses will be positive, the second will be negative, and the last one will always be a positive. Now, I'm going to split these x's apart, 3 x's. The 27 is 3 times 3 times 3. So again, I'm going to circle the first x and circle the first 3 and put those in the first parentheses. Now, I take the remaining x's, multiply them together, and put that in the second parenthesis. I take the remaining 3's, multiply those together, and put that in the second parentheses. Let me erase that. Fix it. Come on, erase. Okay, it's not erased. Alright, let's fix that. There's a plus sign. Minus, whoops. And what did we put? 9. So we're going to put 9. Hold on, y'all. I don't know what's going on with this thing. Okay, 9. Now, let's figure out what's going to go in the middle. So we'll take the circled pieces. I'll highlight them in yellow. The circle pieces, we multiply those together, and we'll get a 3x. So that's your final answer. Alright, let's say I had 125 x cubed minus 27. Now notice this time I've got a coefficient and a constant. Doesn't matter, it sets up the same way. I'll draw my 2 sets of parentheses. Okay, y'all, I don't know what's going on here. My computer's going crazy. Get back to this. Okay, alright, here we go. So, I'm going to put the acronym SOAP. Oops. Now, since the original has a minus, the first parentheses gets a minus sign. The second one gets a plus, and then it's always a plus at the end. Now, since I've got a coefficient in front of the x squared, I'm going to have a coefficient in front of my x's. So 125 is 5 times 5 times 5. So it's going to be 5x, 5x, and 5x. 27 is 3 times 3 times 3. Now again, I'm going to circle the first pieces and put each of them in the first parentheses. Now, I'm going to take the remaining two 5x's, multiply them together, and get a 25x squared. I take the remaining 3's, multiply them together, put that at the end. Now, what's going to go in the middle is what I've got circled. I've got a 5x and a 3. I multiply those together, we'll get 15x. Alright, let's do one more. Let's say I had 1000 x cubed plus 1. Alright, so I'm going to set up my parentheses first. Okay, something's going on with my screen. So I'm doing this. Oops. Alright, so I'm going to set up my acronym SOAP. Now, the original is a positive. So this will be a positive, this will be a negative, and this will always be a positive. Now, again, I'm going to split these apart. 1000x cubed is a 10x, a 10x, and a 10x. And 1 is just 1 times 1 times 1. Okay. Now, I'm going to circle the first 10x, circle the 1, and put both of those in the first parentheses. I take the remaining two 10x's, multiply them together, and put them at the beginning of the second parentheses. I multiply the two 1's together and put that at the end, so that'll be a 1. Now to figure out what goes in the middle, I'm going to multiply the two pieces I've got circled, the 10x and the 1, and we'll just get 10x.